And I want to introduce His Grace Rajavi Hari Prabhu. For those of you who don't know, Rajavi Hari Prabhu has kindly come all the way from Washington, D.C., America, just to make sure that everything goes nicely here at Govardhan Retreat Center. And what would you say? So far, so good, no?
Yes.
Rajavi Hari Prabhu is disciple of His Grace Burijan Prabhu, a very dear godbrother of mine, who will be coming on Tuesday. Jai. And we are looking forward to hearing from him. Yes, and if you have any complaints, right? And you've complained to everybody else in our organization team and they're not helping you, the buck, we say in America, the buck stops here. Buck is a slang word for dollar. And I think it was an American president who said that.
Yeah,
Truman. Yeah. The buck stops here means if everything else doesn't work, please approach Rajavi Hari Prabhu. Yeah, I saw the signs on the glass doors.
Yeah.
After how many of you, I know Muneshwar had a very harsh experience, and you also. Yeah. I was thinking of, I don't know if it's a good comparison, Duryodhana in Hastinapur, not Hastinapur, in Indraprastha. Hare Krishna. I also wanted to remind you of our writing project. What was the writing project?
About reflection, about retreat.
We're going to write a book collectively. Everyone becomes silent. Goes, yeah, right. Writing can take so many different forms. So many different forms. We're not asking you to write a novel, unless you want to. We're not asking you to write an academic paper, article, unless you want to. I was thinking an interesting, I don't know for whom it would be interesting, but maybe for geologists, an interesting academic article could be about the geological character of Govardhan. I asked Ramatirtha Prabhu, who is a geologist, some years ago, what is the geological analysis? What would a geologist say about this hill? And he, as I remember, he kind of said, I don't know. Then I think he came up with a technical term for the kind of rock. You know, what do they call it? Igneous, or I don't know what, something. And I thought, yeah, okay. Didn't feel very illuminating to me. What are we looking for? I had couple of ideas that you might find helpful. Sometimes we were asked to do this in school. I remember as a kid, we would be asked to write a letter to Santa Claus. Did you have this in school? You didn't have this.
No Santa Claus in Turkey.
No Santa Claus. Right.
She said no Santa Claus in Turkey.
In Turkey.
Turkey,
Right?
obviously.
Yeah. So writing the format, the concept of writing a letter. I was thinking one might want to write a letter to one or another of the 6 Goswamis. In other words, sort of reaching across time to connect with one of the great acharyas who have lived here. Maybe it's a bit early for me to say this because it's in Radhakund that one really gets the sense of the presence of the Goswamis. If we can overcome the presence of the Pandas. But any case, you could write a letter to Giriraj also. You might want to write in the form of poetry, you might want to write in the form also just a conversation, a drama. Doesn't have to be terribly dramatic. The drama usually involves some sort of conflict. Although Sanskrit drama there will usually be some issues, some conflict, but it's more about rasa, drawing out rasa. So, like that. And I don't know if this is going to help, but there's a whole universe of, where is that? Of what's called contemplative practice. And someone created a sort of graphic illustration of different sorts of contemplative practice. And this is in the form of a tree which has roots, 2 roots. One they call communion and connection, and the other root they call awareness. So, okay, roots of course are feeding the tree, so that might be helpful. And then it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 branches, and then it has several sub-branches. The first branch is stillness. Stillness, what's that? Hare Krishnas are never still. This is the Hare Krishna movement. Stillness. Sub-branches within stillness are, guess what? Silence. What's that? Centering, quieting the mind, meditation. Okay, the next branch is called generative. What's that mean? Well, the examples, the sub-branches are given of gratitude, loving kindness and compassion, meditation. So I think the idea is generating, so in contemplation one generates some sort of feeling. One sort is gratitude, another sort is a feeling of loving kindness and compassion. And also included here is contemplative reading, and we could say a lot about that, but just mention it. Here's a word which I like, and I don't know how it translates into Polish, but or Spanish or German. Beholding. To behold something is, it's not holding, it's beholding. It's, I don't even know how to explain it in English. Do you have any thoughts about what is beholding? Behold, Govardhan.
Same with awe, I don't know.
Maybe with awe. Behold the mountain. It's like an intense kind of seeing with contemplation in such a way that it's reaching the heart. How's that?
Much better.
Yes.
There's in Bhagavad Gita where in the first chapter when it is said that
Behold the armies.
army, yeah. In
Yeah.
Croatian it is translated only like look at them, like look. At,
Yeah.
you know, nothing.
Look at the army. No, there's a richer sense in the word behold. Did you find a word in Polish?
There's nothing such good. Ujrzeć, spostrzec, but the explanation you gave is very good.
Okay.
We understand.
All right. Okay, then visualization is part of this generative aspect of contemplation. So you may, visualization is, I would say it's very much part of our tradition. The acharyas are describing in so much detail, inviting us to visualize the Lord, visualize pastimes and so on. Another dimension of contemplative practice is being creative, and the examples given here are contemplative arts, journaling, improvisation. We had 2 days ago this amazing improvisation at Dan Nivartan Kund that was brought about by Archamurti Mataji. That was a sort of improvisation where we had no clue what we're doing, and she told us what we're doing and what we're saying. But it was fun. Music and singing are creative, and we might want to add poetry to that. Then contemplation can become more active. So the next branch is called active. And this is specified with pilgrimage to, well, I want to say pilgrimage, period, but they say pilgrimage to areas where social justice issues are highlighted. Okay. I've heard that in Mumbai you can take a tour of a slum area in Mumbai. It's become a tourist attraction. Yeah. What they think of next. Yeah. Another area is activism, work, and volunteering. Some devotees have developed programs of helping people here in the Govardhan area, also in Vrindavan, helping widows, helping destitute people. Bhaktivigyan Goswami has some programs going. There's one lady from Germany. I would like to visit. She has a goshala somewhere around Radha Kunda. And I heard she has received this honor from the central Indian government. A German lady, a devotee German lady, I forget her name.
Rajasevika?
Huh?
Rajasevika?
Maybe.
But I think she's in Vrindavan. No, it's not there.
Radha Kunda.
See,
Unless she moved her goshala. Anyway, so these kinds of activities are going on around Braj. And you'll see, what is it? Something Braj Trust. You'll see signs everywhere. A lot of renovation work is going on, or has gone on. I don't know, some. And also the building up of kundas and so on. Radhakund at least, was built by a wealthy merchant. We may hear the story about that, how he comes to Raghunath Goswami. Vigils and marches, bearing witness, deep listening. Okay, this comes into relational branch. Deep listening, council circle, storytelling, dialogue. Okay? Then there's a branch called movement, which includes walking meditation, labyrinth walking, right? That's a popular thing in sort of New Age circles, but labyrinth goes back centuries. There's a labyrinth in the Chartres Cathedral in France, for example. Yeah. And then also in this branch of movement is yoga, dance, aikido, tai chi chuan, qigong. Yeah, all those sorts of things are included. And then the final branch is called ritual cyclical. Okay, establishing a sacred personal space, retreats, japa, and ceremonies and rituals based in spiritual or cultural traditions. So that's just throwing a lot of sort of bullet points out that could give some prompts to think about how you might want to express yourself. When we think about writing, it's good to think, what do I want to communicate? What would I like someone to read? What would I, how can I write so that someone will want to read what I write? And although this is usually, or only, I don't know, associated with academic writing, I found very helpful a very simple principle that you may also find helpful. and that is, there's actually a book about this, which is for university students, and the title of the book is They Say, I Say. They say, I say. And it's a book that's teaching how to write good academic writing, but I'm saying it can be good for all sorts of writing, because it's essentially giving the structure of somebody thinks or says or imagines like this, but, and this can be but or it can be and. That's a good idea, and I want to say also X, Y, or Z. So you're making a context for what you're writing. The context of people say, or people think, or there's a common misconception, or there's 100 different things you could fill in. Or I used to think, I used to feel, I used to tell people, but now, you see what it is? It's giving this, it can be very powerful. So it's kind of like Purva Paksha Siddhanta, the preliminary, the idea, and it can be in the form of something you want to refute. A lot of academic writing is of this sort. They say this or that. They get it all wrong. What we have to understand is it's like, this is what it is really the case. All right, enough of this. Alam alam. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Or maybe I should stop and say, any questions? Anything about that? As I mentioned when I first introduced this, we wanted to produce a book. And we want to do it, I think, somewhat quickly. We don't want it to stretch over 10 years.
Yeah.
And
Have some deadline?
Deadline, yes.
All right.
Our publisher, Rasadari Hari, wants a deadline. I think that will help, yeah. We're always a little nervous about deadlines, but they're good. They're good. We can think about a deadline. Or do you have an idea?
Let's say March.
March. This is February.
30th of March.
30th of March.
Yeah, that's it.
No, it's 15 April.
It's too, should be earlier.
15 April.
April, you will forget everything quickly.
Always start traveling up. Yeah.
Aha, yeah, okay.
Can be like 15th of March?
15th of March.
Okay, for you.
30th of March, 2025. No,
15th of
15 April.
April is also okay.
Okay, 15th of April.
The signature to the sea.
Yeah. 15th of April. Mark your calendars. I have to mark my calendar. Hold on. April. 15th of April is a Saturday. If we were being very Vedic, we would have some lunar calendar day, like some Purnima or something. But in any case, let's make it 15. Okay, all right. That gives lots of time. Unfortunately, I think that's also the deadline for Srila Prabhupada Vyasa Puja offerings. for
Also when taxes are due in America.
That's, yeah. Last time I filed a tax return was some years ago. Don't tell them that.
Guru Maharaj, do you have an idea the title of it?
Title of the book. Well, one thought I had was Mountain of Love. And then I can have a subtitle. You like that, huh? Okay. Yeah, so that can be also a theme. You can see how you might want to express that theme. I would say, though, it doesn't have to be entirely, I would say, yeah, it's reflections somehow generated out of the retreat. So we're trying to keep it as open-ended as possible. Yes, Dira.
You also sent some drawings.
Drawings, some art.
Done here.
Yeah. Yes, we could have some illustrations. That would be nice. Maybe we can get the children to do some art. They're not awake yet, so we can't ask them. Anyway, okay. So, Shri Harinama Chintamani, and as I explained, it's been, 3 days since we discussed. Harinama Chintamani, the bulk of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work is taking each of the 10 offenses, which are listed in the Padma Purana, and explaining them and explaining what is the solution, how to overcome them. And then, toward the end, he gives an additional aparada, and that is pramada. This is chapter 12. By the way, I might mention the format of his Harinama Chintamani is it's like song, it's poetry. It could be sung, actually. There's a meter to it. But our translation here is in prose. And I suggested that we jump to and focus on this particular one because Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that this is the mula, this inattention is the root of all the other anarthas. And indeed, we might feel like you consider the anartha. Anarthas, but the aparadas. Actually, I just realized he says anartha, not aparada. Okay, but from anarthas comes aparada. So, but if we think about what are the aparadas, aparada. This word aparada is sometimes given a kind of what scholars would call a folk etymology, that it is aparadha, so it's away from Radha. Apa, the prefix is away, or removed from Radha, you could say. Except that the word is not aparadha, it's aparadha. And it has the basic meaning of offense. It can also mean mistake. So mistake or offense, you can make a mistake and it becomes an offense. But if we would go back and think about them in relation to inattention, that could be a useful exercise, but I'm not going to do that now. I mentioned, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that inattention has three aspects. Where is this? Yes. Indifference, what's translated here as inertia, jadya, from the word jada, which means dull or inert or unconscious, jada. And distraction, vikshepa. Indifference was udasinya. Yeah, mistake. Oh, another meaning of aparada. No. A meaning, the opposite of aparada is unaparada. Unaparada. And what does that mean? It means innocence. So we want to become free from aparada. And we want to start with the aparad of inattention. And if we can fix that, then that would be unaparada. And that would be a condition of being innocent. Innocent. Interesting, isn't it? So, udasinya, lack of faith. Indifference, udasinya, means lack of faith. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, inertia or dullness, jadya, means, he says, laziness. Sometimes we get into this sort of, space out mode of chanting, sort of half reclining. Satchidananda Swami always emphasizes this point when we chant. To chant properly Hare Krishna, it's yoga, so one should be, sitting properly. He speaks about alignment, aligning the body. So sitting up straight so that one can be attentive, not half lying down. And then distraction, vikshepa, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says means or comes from attraction to sense objects. So what to do to avoid this? This was the cliffhanger we had 2 or 3 days ago, and this is where we want to come now. So he has many headings, or whether Bhaktivinoda gave the headings or later editors, I'm not sure. But one heading is, the aspiring devotee should carefully make his mind steady. Sounds good. How to do that? Well, first he says, what is the problem? Everyone is naturally attracted to material sense objects. When one remembers them, one becomes attracted to sense objects. Yeah. Now, sense objects, of course, we may not be just contemplating gross sense objects when we're chanting, but it could be something more subtle, and it could be something that's tied to our concerns to be controllers, to be, how to put this, to be acknowledged by others, to be approved by others. It can also have to do with our need for security. We're all very deeply wanting security, isn't it? We don't only want security, we also want sometimes adventure. Therefore we go on a retreat because we don't just want to stay in our room at home all the time. But security is a very important principle for us. We want control, but sometimes we want to let go of control. We want somebody else to control. We want approval, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we want to be rebels. We don't care what others think. Yeah. But one way or another, our minds can become very preoccupied with these things which are, you can say, essentially concerned for attraction to the objects of the senses. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, even though one chants a lakh of holy names, what is a lakh? L-A-K-H, transliteration.
10,000.
No, it's 100,000. Yeah. 10,000 times 10. 100,000. Even, in other words, 64 rounds. So one may chant 64 rounds of holy names on the beads. Even though one may do this, not a single drop of the holy name's nectar or a single jewel of the many jewels of the holy name's glories will fall into the heart if one is inattentive. So he's saying there's nectar to be had, there are jewels to be received, but if the mind is somewhere else, they're not going to come. It's not going to come. So he says one must be careful by associating with devotees. Okay, this is going to be a major point for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. By associating with devotees, one quickly becomes free of material desires. Haribol. It's that easy. He makes it sound really easy sometimes. The fault of material desire destroyed, one then may chant the holy name in a secluded place. Now sometimes we hear that, no, this is a no-no. One should not chant in a secluded place. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives us an entire song, poem, quite long, called Vaishnav K. What sort of Vaishnava are you? And he's challenging his mind that you are thinking you are a very advanced Vaishnava, you're sitting by yourself chanting the holy name, but what are you actually doing? You're contemplating everything but the holy name. Gradually, the mind becomes fixed on the holy name. Then one is always intoxicated by tasting the nectar of the holy name. He makes it sound so easy. Staying near Tulsi Devi, staying in a holy place of Lord Krishna's pastimes, associating with saintly devotees and following the example of the great saints, one gradually spends more and more time thinking of the holy name. Very soon, one abandons thinking of material sense objects. I think this has a footnote. Let's see. Yeah, he says, he has footnotes. One of them says, following the example of great saints means the example of past saints wrapped in the bliss of devotional service, bhajana ananda. So it's permitted, it's permitted to remember the past acharyas and to be conscious of how they have been absorbed in chanting the holy name. And he goes on to say, I mentioned this yesterday, in the beginning, one chants the holy name for half an hour. That's a danta. Danta. Gradually, the chanting is increased to an hour. Maybe an hour is a danta, ardha danta. I don't know. Then gradually, the chanting is increased to 2 hours. Then gradually, the chanting is increased to 100,000 holy names, 64 rounds. And then it is gradually increased to 300,000 holy names, 192 rounds. Forget about taking care of your garden, Yadi. Forget about cooking for the family. Tikshna Rupa will say, "What's for lunch today?" She says, "Lunch? You can prepare your own lunch. I'm chanting." How to make a problem in a marriage. One of the partners gets some incredibly strong taste in chanting the holy name, and the other is not there yet. And so it's like, hey, what about dinner? I've never heard of that problem in ISKCON though. Have you? No. Maybe it's the next generation that's going to have that problem. We have other problems. Oh, it's already 8 o'clock. Let's get started. Yeah, I've always wondered about this chanting 100. Someone told me they chanted 192 rounds sometime. I don't know how they do it. My tongue doesn't work that fast. I don't know. Chanting in the mind can go pretty fast, isn't it? No? But when you chant in the mind, it's even easier to go off into being inattentive, unless you're ready. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wants to help us. So I think it's nice we can read like he is with us and he is giving us some coaching. But perhaps the broader point in relation to pramada is just we were discussing yesterday about checklists, right? So one thing what one could put on the checklist is, of course, the general question, am I being attentive when I'm chanting? And then we can be more specific. Am I feeling some indifference? Indifference is one way of translating this unavadana. No, sorry, unavadana is inattention. And udasinya is indifference. Udasinya. And another way of translating udasinya could be apathy. You know the word apathy. Apatia, that's the Greek. Apathy. It's like, apathy is sort of associated with a sense of hopelessness. Like, well, I know I'm not going to get anything out of this chanting, but I'll do it anyway because, yeah, I promised. Okay. Guess I have to do it. 16 rounds. Oh my God. There's another 15 rounds to go. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I have 4 more rounds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The opposite of apathy is welcoming. Today I get to chant Hare Krishna. And I, as Mahatma Prabhu has in his affirmations, I get to chant, I like to chant, I want to chant. I get to chant, I want to chant, I love to chant, yes. And another affirmation is, I easily chant my prescribed rounds. So we can all consult with Mahatma Prabhu. He's coming very soon.
Tomorrow.
Comes tomorrow.
30.
Starts tomorrow, yeah. Any burning questions or comments or reflections before we go for breakfast? Or do we have announced? You want to? Yes.
Yesterday you said that Anartha Nivriti is actually a stage of freedom from anarthas.
Yes.
So practically all other stages you do something, and what is with Anartha Nivriti? It's just like transition from Bhajana Kriya to Nishta.
Well, I think of each of those from Shraddha to Prema, they're like signposts which are orienting us and which we are aiming toward. It's been a long time since I've read the Madhurya Kadambini, I must confess, in which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elaborates on each one. And it could very well be that he gives some more specifics what to do in that area of aiming for freedom from anartha. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Bhajana Rahasya, he also gives some indications. But I would say more generally, they're like signposts, so that one can have a sense of where one is and where one is going. Like a map. A map is You look at the map, here's where I am now, here's where I want to go, and here's the way to get there. Yeah. What else can be said? Yes, it's also said there's anartha nivritti, and so the counterpart, the positive side, is artha pravritti, to engage in what is valuable. So for that we have one way of understanding would be the 6 principles of sharanagati. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyati timishvasa, bhoktrite varnantata, atmanikshepa, karpanye, shatvidha sharanagati. Especially anukulyasya sankalpa, making sankalpa a vow, a resolve, I'm going to do what is favorable. And pratikulyasya varjanam, I'm going to reject. Varjanam is when you're throwing out the garbage, the trash. That's, if you want a fancy Sanskrit word for it, garbage varjanam. Throwing away, rejecting. Yeah, that's what comes to my mind. Yes.
I just want to say that today is a wonderful day of appearance of Mother Yashoda. His appearance day.
Acha?
Yes.
Appearance of Mother Yashoda.
Yashoda Mai.
Yashoda Mai ki.
Yeah.
I never heard that we have a date for that. Yeah.
Krishna Swami shared.
Oh, okay. Yes. So today we can contemplate, speaking of contemplation, we can contemplate Mother Yashoda in her sweet pastimes with little Krishna. She's always in anxiety, actually. She's always in anxiety. She's always worried. Mothers tend to be, when the children are very small, isn't it? Always watching out for them, always concerned. Where are they? What are they doing? Mother Yashoda is very concerned when Balaram reports to her that Krishna has eaten dirt. So she takes action. She wants to make sure that Krishna doesn't get sick. Did you ever eat dirt when you were a kid? Yeah. But you were eating Braj. A lot? Really? Does it taste good?
Yes.
Oh.
It's like makan.
Huh?
It's like makan.
Makan.
Yeah. When we were ramen ready,
Yeah.
and Achamuti Mataji said that it's makan is there.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's like makan. Yes.
Just one quick thing. Devotees who are not here, disciples, they see every day where we go and pictures and so on. Maybe they would also like to write for the book. Are they allowed?
Well, we don't want to deny if someone is enthusiastic to write. Dham seva from a distance. Okay.
An announcement?
Announcement?
You may have noticed, I was talking to Maharaj about this yesterday, that there's a lot of these plastic Bisleri bottles, and it's no pressure or anything, but if you have instead of using them up so much and using up so much plastic, we have very good drinking water at the, maybe you saw there's a big green sign at the back of the big kirtan hall, and so if you have a water container, or if you want to just refill these, we could be a little more friendly with the environment. But there's no pressure if you're finding you're remaining healthy and everything, taking this, that's fine. But if you want to be a little more conscious of using so much plastic, that the water here is quite good, and you can just refill your bottle.
Thank you.
Any announcements, Mother Chanika?
The wedding will start, I heard, 11?
Well, Becky, you're gonna sing up.
Yeah, I wanted to.
You wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah, the wedding will start at 11 o'clock, and I want to invite every one of you to participate, to be there and celebrate with us. It would be very wonderful for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Yashoda Mai ki jai. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai.